Hey everybody, welcome back to the Personal Transformation Podcast. My name is Dan Storey, and on this episode, I'm joined by Elizabeth Sevo. Now, Elizabeth did the opposite journey to me. She went from the States and thought, you know what, it's going to be a really good idea. I'm going to move to Madrid, of all places. Like, it's a beautiful city. I've been there once. But that is a massive uplift. And one of the things we talk about in Personal Transformation Blueprint is this idea that we get stuck and we get comfortable. Well, I'll tell you what, Elizabeth has done a journey that is probably anything but comfortable. We're only talking about turbulence. So, Elizabeth, I'm excited to have you on the show and find out the motivation, the inspiration, the craziness and delusion behind a move that takes you from New Jersey to Madrid. So welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. I laugh when you say that because it reminds me of my brother saying there's millions of people trying to get into the US and only one trying to get out.
It's it's a good balance, right? It makes lots of high fives on the way out, but I can tell you, coming back into the US, it's the queues are getting longer.
Yes, I can imagine.
But let's talk about that. That's a significant move. I mean, most people, I find, there's typically three groups of people in my experience. There's the group, and I think about the people that I went to school with. There's the group that graduated school, got a job locally, and stayed in place. Right? They're all the kind of people now that I know. They've got kids that are now going into school, and their grandparents and stuff, which is absolutely insane to think about at my age, but it's going to be happening soon. So there's those group. There's the group who kind of thought, right, I'm going to go and get a career, and then kind of moved away, and then kind of came back a little bit and had families, and they kind of later on in life they're deciding to settle down. And then there's the third group, which is forget that family and growing upness. I'm going to go and do career. I'm going to go have fun. I'm going to live in life of adventure. And they never come back. And you see them living their best life all the time on social media. So there's this different groups of people. You obviously were not in the first group where you thought, I'm just going to settle down. Or maybe you were for a little bit, but then something happened that said, you know what, I'm not going to stay in Jersey for my whole life. So take us through, like, how do you justify that move and kind of what kicked it all off for you?
I love the word justify. Well, I guess I wouldn't put myself in any one of those groups, but I grew up in New Jersey. And of course, the exciting thing when you're growing up in New Jersey is that you want to work in New York. And I did. When I went to college, I did do a study abroad in Spain, and I loved it there. Luckily, I didn't fail out of school. And when I graduated, I went to New York and started working in New York and loved it. But when I was working in figure skating, I ended up meeting somebody who, through figure skating from Spain, who was producing figure skating shows in Europe and all that, which kind of brought me back again. And I was like, wow, I love it now. I remember why I love. No wonder why I was not studying all this time. And I always thought to myself, God, I would love to move to Spain, but if I only had the man of my life, I would move back to Madrid. Oh, if I only had the job of my life, I would move to Madrid. I don't have either. So maybe I should just move to Madrid. So it was literally like that. And I came here with literally with nothing. I mean, I did have friends, thankfully, but I didn't have a visa to work or anything like that. I came as like, well, all right, I'm here. And that was back in 2011. A lot of the Spaniards they were still in a crisis, in Spanish to say crisis. And a lot of the Spaniards were saying to me, oh, you're crazy to be here. You're never going to get a job. We're in a crisis. And I used to say, well, your crisis has nothing to do with me. I'm here for something else. I chose to make this move to see what it would be like and to see if I could build a life here. And now it's been almost 14 years and I'm still here. I'm loving it.
That's amazing. Where some people see crisis, others see opportunity, I believe, is the way of seeing things. Crisis is definitely a time of change and turmoil, but if we know anything, that's also a time of redistribution.
It's a great way to put it. Exactly.
So take us through that then. So what was it that you thought Madrid offered? This is the thing, because we often look at something and we think, oh, the grass is greener over there. Now, I'm a big one of saying that environment changes the way you think about yourself, the way you act. We tend to get into thought patterns that are kind of directed, I guess, by our environment. So you were living in Jersey, you were thinking the Jersey way or like the New York commuter type way. What was it that you thought Madrid would give you differently, and why was that important to you?
Well, it's funny that you say that about the environment. Do have a quote in the book that says, "Change your environment, change your mind," and I've been saying that for forever. But when I first came, when I was in college, I got off the plane first time ever. I came alone. I was supposed to go with my college roommate, and she ended up backing out at the last minute. So my mom was like, "You're not going now?" And I'm like, "Oh yeah, no, I'm still going." So I came the first time when I was 20, turning 21. Oh, now I just give my age away by giving out the years. And whoops.
Nobody can do maths that quickly.
Hopefully, right? So when I got off the plane, I remember walking through the airport and something about the smell or the environment, I got goosebumps, feeling like I'm home. This felt familiar to me, yet I had never been there. So, I spent the 6 month study abroad, and I remember liking it when I got in contact again with people from Spain, and I had been traveling back and forth for figure skating and for the tours that we were doing in Europe. It all came back to me again about how much I loved the lifestyle, the culture, the people. And I have to say, it wasn't that I thought something was better here. I felt better here. I felt more like myself. I felt more grounded, more possibilities, more opportunity. I used to say that, I'm an American of Italian American descent with a Spanish soul because I just felt so alive here. And so it wasn't that I was particularly looking outside of myself or something, but I came alive here in Madrid in a way that I hadn't before.
It's funny. I felt the same way in New York the first time I came here. Came here in 2003, and I remember I was only in town for like 2 days, but walking around and just feeling familiar. And I know it's in all the movies, and I know that kind of element played a part, but there was something inside of me that as I walked around, just like head up, looking, just like what the heck is going on. I'm from a small town in England where it has 2 stories is the biggest building that we've got. Just the sense of possibility, and saying to myself at that time, I said, I need to come back here like regularly. I never dreamed that I would be living here one day, but here I am and getting it done. So that's very cool. So I get that kind of that feeling that there's a different capability within ourselves. So talk to us, so okay, some people have done the maths. I can't do the maths right now, but I'm kind of trying to figure those bits and pieces out. But that means, like, if I kind of put it in the ballpark, that you didn't just have like a single suitcase of belongings. You had a life back home, right?
So, oh yeah, a life. And hopefully my dad doesn't listen to this podcast because I lied through my teeth, but the only person who knew the truth was my mother. I got the cross-examination from my father, who was a retired lawyer. Do you have a job in Madrid? Of course I have a job in Madrid, Dad. Do you think I would move to Madrid without a job? Did you rent your house? Of course I rented my house, Dad. Do you think that I would pay mortgage in one country and rent in another? And I'm like, to my mother, because I had a whole life there, friends and family, but I just wanted to see what it would be like. So I did come with the intention of staying, but I left things in place at home just in case. And then when I did get a job, I called my dad. I got a job. I thought you had a job, a new job. So,
good cover. Yeah.
Exactly. So, but I did come with the intention of, let's see what happens here. I would love to build a life. Let's see how it would work. And obviously, that was almost 14 years ago. So but we did have, obviously cell phones. And at that time, in the beginning, it was Skype, and now it's WhatsApp and video calls and FaceTime. So you don't really feel that you miss anyone on either side. The world is so connected now.
I can imagine that just before you made that decision to kind of cross the pond, there were a million reasons why you shouldn't do it. Like, there must have been a million things saying, this is a crazy idea. What are you doing? What about that? And, it's probably your dad's voice going on in your head. Like, have you got these things sorted? What were the biggest things that almost kept you held back? And how did you overcome those and kind of finally let go?
Well, I want to say really nothing. And I know you're looking for a better answer there to help people to overcome things. But I have always been somebody who follows my intuition. And my intuition was telling me to try. And the wonderful thing about my mother is that she always made us feel very safe and secure in any decision that we made. So I had that, that's a huge luxury to have that. I had the support of, okay, I'll miss you. And of course my friends as well. But there was that feeling that, well, I can go out into the world and try. And if I don't like it, you can always go home. Yeah, right. But I was a big intuition follower. So by the time I got to that age, when I moved, I think my family and friends were like, we are never going to be able to talk her out of this, no matter what, no matter what. So by then I realized to follow my intuition. So that is what I would tell other people is, don't let those obstacles hold you back. Yes, fear is there. Let fear inform you, but not cripple you. And, you can be informed of, okay, you be careful of this or try this or watch out for that or whatever it may be. But when your intuition speaks, listen.
Yeah, such a good point. We often play the intuition piece down. I think we kind of, it sounds like the dream voice. It's like too good to be true. But I love how you put it there. It's like, go and do it. Like, try it. Trust your intuition. Go and follow it. You can always go back. There's always, there's always a safety net. It's great to have your parents there. And it sounds like your mom was really supportive. But
Yes.
go and play. And this life is about having experiences, right? So.
And it wasn't the first time that I had done something that surprised friends and family. I was working in corporate America at Turner Broadcasting, and I decided to quit my job and work with figure skaters. And I think when I told my friends and family, I think they didn't believe me, didn't realize, and they're like, what are you doing here? Well, I told you when I didn't go to work that day. Yeah, do you know what I mean? Hey, why are you at the office? Oh, I quit. I'm now working with figure skaters. So it wasn't the first time that they had heard me say that I was going to do something a little bit out of the norm. That's why I was saying in the beginning, I don't fit in any of those groups per se, but that is a function really of following your intuition, and I highly recommend it.
I think we can do a lot worse than following our intuition, and letting go of those fears that you say, and just going out and play it. Like, try things. They always say you regret the things you don't do, not the things that you do.
Well, I really think that life is a matter of choices. And we always have that choice to listen to that inner voice, to listen to the outer voices, so, and there's a quote inside my book called, "You are the artist and you are the masterpiece." And that is kind of how I've always lived my life I'm going to design my life. I'm the artist of my life, despite whatever noise may be on the outside, opinions or what society would say. And I have to say, this many years later, I'm really happy that I did that.
Well, I'm happy that you are enjoying Spain and enjoying Europe and things along those lines. It sounds like a very good move. 14 years well spent, long may it continue. So let's talk about choice then. Let's talk, because I love this topic, choice and decision making. So I studied decision making. That was my master's degree, and I did my kind of my dissertation project, my research project on the impact of external stimulus and information and how it warps us in ways, especially when we don't know what we don't know, when we're insecure and uncertain. So I think we could probably talk about choice all day, but you've got this idea of, every moment is a choice. So the book, I think you said you started writing this 2 years ago and obviously, listeners can probably tell that your mum was really important to you, but she passed away 2 years ago. Is that right?
Almost 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years this coming Christmas.
Well, it's any loss like that is impactful, but from what you tell me, it was not just the emotional impact, but it kind of spurred something inside of you to kind of take a new direction.
Yeah, I mean, it changed my life in many ways, obviously, and in the book that I've now become an author because of it. But the book I wrote is called "Choose Your Moments," capital MOM for Mom. How the sudden loss of my mother taught me how to live, inspiration for everyday life. And basically, I take the reader on a 24-hour journey of when I'm home in the US visiting and my mom dies suddenly. So obviously we weren't expecting it. And we had to plan a funeral very quickly before Christmas. And I'm with my mom the night before the funeral. Obviously, I wanted to see her, and I just got this rush of information, the greatest message ever of my life, which is that often the things we think matter don't. All that matters are the moments. And life is a series of moments, and we get to choose how to live them. And it was really incredible because I started thinking to myself, and not knowing it was her last week or moments, what did we do? And, did she have flowers in the house? She loves flowers. Did she drink tea? She loves tea. Did she see a good movie? Did she laugh? And all those things that are important, not about, did I send that last email? Did I spell check my document? Did I post on social media? Do I have gray hair? How are my wrinkles? Do I fit my clothes today? The things that we tend to think about that we deem so important, and that didn't even enter my mind. It was those kind of untouchable, beautiful things that I wanted to make sure that in her last moments, she enjoyed them. And it really, hit home in the sense of that life is a series of moments and we get to choose how to live them. And, especially when you're dealing with grief, I really needed to lean on choice, because I had to choose, how will I deal with this? How am I going to live without my mom now? I had to choose to be happy, choose to find moments of relief, choose to go on. And, I write this in the book, in a world full of variety, choices, and options, we do have the choice to go on. And you don't want to, believe me. Nobody wants to. And so it was, such an important message that I wanted to write about it and share it with people, and kind of redefine the word moments from a point in time into a tool that you can enhance and enrich your life. So the book is equipped with quotes on one side of the page, and then an explanation. Each quote has an explanation using the word moments. I can show you, I'll just flip to any page. There's a quote, and then there's an explanation using the word moments. Yeah. So you can pick up the book and use one quote per day, and that's your quote for the day, or you can read it all the way through.
Beautiful. It's amazing when inspiration hits. You don't always know when it's going to come, and it very rarely does it come at a point where you're sat there with a notepad and pen saying, hey, I'm going to write all of these things down. But when it hits, I think you've got to listen, like you say, trust your inspiration. Losing a loved one is tough. It's, I lost my stepdad about 1.5 years ago, I think it was. It seems like yesterday, but it's also such a long time ago now. It's a weird feeling. But he had an 8-year battle with cancer. And it's, you said you lost your mum suddenly. So I'm going to ask you, like, whether you think it's better to do it that way or the other way. But he had 8 years. And I remember that it was 3 or 4 months before he passed. It was my daughter's birthday. And we've got a photo. It's just in the other room. I keep it in the bedroom of me, my brother, my nephew, and my dad. And we're all sat on the sofa, and my daughter's sat in the middle. And there's a look on his face of pure joy. And it's, I keep looking at it. I think here's a man who is, he knows he's going to die of cancer, and everything must hurt in his entire body. He's going through all sorts of chemical treatments. And yet, here he is with a massive smile on his face, enjoying his day. And yet, many people, I've had a bad day. Somebody drove in front of me, and it ruins everything. So you're absolutely right. We choose how we show up. Yeah, we absolutely do. So, question though, you said it was a fairly sudden thing. Did that change the way you were able to grieve? Did it change?
I was in such shock, and I write about that a little bit in the book. And people would say to me, I don't know, I only know that way. So, so I don't know what would be better or worse. I always say, yes, I would rather have some warning and be able to, prepare yourself for that. And this was a shock. My sister woke me up in the middle of the night to tell me. So, so it was, even the first line of my book is it's inevitable that death is a part of life, but what if it was death itself that taught you how to live? And that's exactly what happened to me. But regarding somebody dying suddenly, people would say to me, oh, well, your mom didn't suffer. And at that point I was like, let her suffer. She'd be here longer. It all comes down to just you, right? You and your grief. So in that case, yes, I'm glad that she didn't suffer, and I'm glad that it was, quick and easy for her. Obviously, it took some time for me to understand that this is really real, and which is why I wanted to see her the evening before the funeral. And so it is, there is that shock that happens, but I'm not sure. I think it's probably better for the person that's leaving. There's somebody who says that the ones that suffer are the ones that are left behind, right? The person who has transitioned is fine. So, but I think it would have been nice. I would have loved more warning to spend more moments or be very conscious of the moments. But I have to say that since COVID, I was starting to be very conscious of the fact that my parents are getting older, and that each vacation that I had, I went home. So I was going home at Christmas. In Spain, we have Semana Santa. So I would go home for a week or two then, and then always in the summertime. But I, was making sure to make that the point. And I'm glad that I did. So I was, there at the time.
That's good. I think there's an element of closure that you get from being there. And I think it's important. So well done. Yeah, I was looking the other day. Apparently, by the age of 18, we've spent 90% of our parent time with our family. Wow. It's crazy. You think about it, you're there every day pretty much until the age of 18, and then go off to college or university or whatever, or you move to Madrid or something along those lines.
Exactly. But I talked to, and I found this out after my mom died, that I think I'm like, what, am I the only person who does this? I talked to both of my parents every day separately, because they were divorced, so they lived separately. And I would say that to people, and then they're like, wow, really? You talk to your parents every day? And I was like, yeah, you don't. So I was surprised by that. And I guess it's just a testament to the great relationship that that we had and continue to have.
That's very cool. So you've got plenty of tips in the book then. How many tips, how many of these moments are you advising in the book?
Exactly. So there's 80 quotes. 80 quotes with explanations or insights. There's a little hint in the book of why it's 80, but I never come out and say it. It's when it is the shock of that my mom had died, I said, are you sure she's only 80 years old? So I decided to do the 80 quotes in her honor. Okay.
So I got two questions then, and I should never do this. I keep telling myself off as an interviewer, but I like it. I like these kind of multiple questions. I can't help it. So I'm going to stick with it. It's bad technique, but we're going to go with it. We're going to own it, Dan, own it. So here's question 1 and 2 at the same time. So obviously, you are the number one recipient of your book. I find this is the often right things that I want to digest and things. So I want to know what the biggest moment element is that you have in the book. What's the one that talked to you the loudest or made the most significant impact since you wrote it? And then the second one is, what have you found surprising that other people have taken? Like, what's the one moment that other people have said, hey, you know what, that's been really insightful?
Well, the reaction from other people has been incredible. I have to say, I guess I was surprised by that. I didn't expect that it would touch so many people, and that they would, although that's what I wrote it for, and for them to utilize it. And I kept saying that, the intention is to redefine moments from a point in time into a tool, and they're using it as a tool. So it's interesting to see how people are impacted by the different quotes. And even a few people, I watched them read it. There was a guy next to me on the plane when I was going to Belgium a few weeks ago, and I had it out, and he asked me, and the introduction is relatively short, and he read it, and I was watching his face and in his reaction. So that has been really beautiful. I don't know if I expected anything in particular. I was so inspired to write it and felt compelled to share the message that I didn't think, okay, how are people going to receive it, so to speak. My mom used to always say that, we had this joke at home because I love Oprah Winfrey, and I was always watching the Oprah Winfrey show growing up, and she would say that she didn't need to watch Oprah because she already purposed, and she had her kids, so that was her purpose. So now I'm saying, well, I give her purpose, and she's given me mine, which is to spread this message. So what has impacted me the most? I would say knowing that life is a series of moments and we get to choose, and the operative word here is choose. I would say that, choice has the starring role, that we get to choose how to live them. I mean, neuroscience is showing us that we make 35,000 choices a day, and 43% are the same. as well as 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day, and 90% are the same. So imagine if you were to make a change, the type of life and how you can change the trajectory of your life with any choice. So that and I realized that I've been living my life making those choices that would keep enriching, my life experience. So I would definitely say that life is a series of moments, and we get to choose how to live them. And in terms of quotes, wow. So my favorite one is, I have two, which is, "You are the artist and you are the masterpiece," because I feel that I live my life like that. One that I've had to remind myself a few times is, "Try compassion before condemning." Yes, the judgy-wudgy comes up every so often. So that is something that I've had to use in my life, as well.
Curious on that one. Is that external or internal?
Which one?
Is that you judging other people or judging yourself more? Oh, yeah. You get that Spanish element. You're really owning it.
Whoops.
No, but it's true, right? We often, and I was just looking at this the other day. A friend of mine quoted on LinkedIn earlier about availability biases. We make the best choices based on the information that we think we have available, but we have such a small subset. We don't know what's going on for other people, so we assume that they're acting with, all intentional, like they have all the information in front of them, and then intentionally making this dumb decision that we've just seen them do. We're like, come on, make a better decision. But sometimes they just, we get it. We all get it wrong. But I agree with you. More compassion and more patience.
Yes.
For sure.
Exactly. But for those who are doing it to themselves, there's a quote in there that says, if doesn't exist. And, to stop you from the, if I only had done this, or if I only had done that. And, so for those who are doing the auto judging, that might, self-judging, that might help them, hopefully.
I love that. There's definitely a lot of people that self-judge this guy occasionally, for sure. So here's a question for you. One of my biggest bugbears in life is status quo bias. The idea that we do the same thing over and over again just because that's how things are. And like I said, the decision science that I look at, and I've taught salespeople forever, right, is getting people to make a different decision versus the one that they always make is so difficult. It's to knock them off that kind of, they've always done it this way. I always have my coffee exactly this way. 2 scoops of coffee, some almond milk on top, a little bit of sugar-free syrup. That's how I have my coffee. Don't change it. Don't change it. That's how I have my coffee. Right? Let's not change it. And yet, like you said, there's about 35,000 decisions that we make every day. So some of them, brain off, fast brain, heuristics, biases, we just do that by default. Some, and these are the ones you're talking about, these moments, are ones that we want to be more intentional about. How do you get people to be aware, or more aware of those intentional moments so they can actually make a different choice?
Exactly. Well, when, the word moment, and obviously I'm talking about being in the now and paying attention to your moments, but and again, it's not to emphasize the scarcity of time, but the immensity of time and resources that we have. And that's why I chose quotes, because I think that, quotes are designed to be impactful, and they will empower you. And then the explanations will show you how you can implement them right into your moments and to have better moments. So it doesn't sound like a chore or a big job that they have to do, that this is very practical and it can be done, easily on a daily basis. And it's an easy book to pick up and just flip through. So, so there's that element of trying to make it easier. And I think once you start to implement 1 or 2 into your life and you see that you feel good, you will continue to do that.
Yeah, I think, and this is what I do like about, I don't like it and I do like it, but I like this. We have a great conversations. It's a long form. We're going to be talking for like 45 minutes or something. There's some amazing content. Thank you for sharing your stories, your ideas, your thoughts. And yet at the end, we're also going to do like a little 1-minute snippet, because a lot of people digest things super quickly, or only have a minute to digest something and take in an idea, and ideas in themselves can absolutely transform the direction that we're moving in. So I think, that quote aspect, I really like that. How did you come up with that idea? You said, you had some moment of inspiration on that.
Well, And I write about a little bit about it in the book, when I did see my mom and I got, let's call it that download of, often the things we think matter don't, all that matters are the moments, and no other metrics of success, fulfilling moments are the success. And I literally leaned down and touched her face and I was like, I got it. I got it. Like, this is what I will take with me to get through this grief and go on with my life. And I did, after the funeral and all of that, I thought to myself, well, how can I explain this to people? And I tried to write it out a little bit, and it wasn't coming the powerful way that I took it. And one day I was walking on the beach in Altea in Spain, and I just heard everything. I heard the whole intro in my head. I ran back into the hotel and wrote it out, and I was like, that's it. And I love quotes. As I say, I think that they're very impactful, and they are also very practical in teaching. So I decided that I would use quotes and obviously the explanation showing that, how you can implement it into your everyday moments. And so when I sat down to write, if the inspiration was there, I would write it. If it wasn't, I would get up. And usually it was when I get up and start doing something else that all the ideas would come. So I was walking around with, talking into my phone and little Post-its. There was Post-its all over the place. So, and so that, that's kind of how it all came together.
It's so funny how books come. I remember my first book, and literally I did a lot of driving at the time. I was supporting salespeople all over the UK and Europe. And so I had a lot of time in between meetings. And it was just back on, it was before dictation software, but I remember recording it and then sending it to an outsource agent in the Philippines or something, and then getting this text back like a week later. Well, that's what I said. But yeah, I think when inspiration hits, you just have to take advantage. Is there anything you do to tune in a little bit more? I remember a Wayne Dyer quote. He said something about, when you wake up at 3:33, that's the angels speaking to you, or something along those lines. Wayne Dyer came up with some amazing things. It's been a while since I've listened to his content. I need to tune back in again. But there are times when certainly I feel more inspired and more kind of in tune with something that's a little bit more creative. Is there anything you do to connect?
Yeah, well, nature obviously helps a lot with that. I grew up in New Jersey, close to the beach, so any water will have that kind of impact on me. So I'm not surprised that the intro came into my head when I was walking along the water. So being in nature helps me a lot. The gym, believe it, I used to joke and call myself the genius in the gym, because I would come up with all these ideas, whether it was for work or what have you. So I think when you physically move, that also can have an impact and an effect. So for me, yes, I would say nature and physical activity.
I just did a podcast this morning. I was a guest on one, and there is about meditation and things. And I say, I go to the gym. That's my meditation. It just clears my head. When I don't have all the noise, I can just focus on heavy things going clink, clink, clink. There's something very clearing in the head that allows thoughts just to be a little bit more or less obtrusive.
Exactly. Well, what I tell clients that I'm coaching is, if they can't do meditation, because a lot of times business people will say, I don't have time and I'm rushing and this, that, and the other thing, I suggest that they do it in the shower. That's the first question. And you take showers, right? Which is sometimes an important question. But even for those few minutes when the water is coming, to imagine it's just light, that you are being showered in light. And that is a nice way to start your day, because you will start to feel lighter, happier, more literally light, if you feel that you've showered yourself in light. And so just making a choice like that to, okay, I'll do that, is the first step in taking better care of yourself.
That's beautiful. Actually, that you just remind me. There's something in shower, and I just kind of put my head down and allow the water just to come down. And you have this kind of waterfall cascade over your eyes. I just think that there's something just very slowing and peaceful about that. All right, enough talk about doing it in the shower. That's going to get completely banned from iTunes and Spotify. But we'll let's move on quickly. What would be your final thing? So obviously, there's tons of tips in the books. Got the 80 tips in the books. What is the one thing that people can do today if they're thinking about being more intentional, being more in tune with their intuition, and changing the way they interact with the moments that they have in their life, what would be the one message you'd give to people?
Well, of course, I would tell them to pick up the book, right? So to pick up the book and flip through the quotes, but really to ask themselves, do I want to be spending my moments doing this? So whatever it is that you may be doing, whether it, sometimes you can be complaining about something, do I want to spend my moments complaining about this? Do I want to spend my moments in this job? Do I want to spend my moments in this relationship? Do I want to spend my moments doing whatever it is that you're doing? It's a kind of a way to reframe, realizing, again, not to emphasize the scarcity of time, but the immensity of time. And I like to think about, sometimes when we're on vacation, we make use of all those moments. You all of a sudden you can wake up early with no problem. You wake up early and get out and enjoy the day. And why not take a practice like that into everyday life? So what I would, first want people to do is realize that, they are making the choice, whether they realize it or not, on a daily basis, and just to be a little bit more conscious that life is a series of moments and you get to choose how to live them.
And this might be a bit personal, so just temper it and adjust it accordingly. If you could have done one thing differently with your mum beforehand, like just before she passed, is there anything you would have done differently?
I was so lucky because I was with my mom. Not obviously, but I did see her, and I write about it in the book. I was in her kitchen and I dropped a bowl of grapes, and she laughed so hard and so much. And I mean, I'm very clumsy. I drop things all the time. And I remember thinking she's really getting a kick out of this. And I guess because it's like, oh my gosh, so many years later, still you're dropping things. And when I left, I hugged her, as I always did. But I remember she was sitting on the couch and I didn't want her to get up. So I came down and really leaned in. So I'm very grateful that I had those moments. And because I did, the answer was, what did she do in her final moments? She laughed. Thank God. Yeah, she laughed and she hugged me. So I'm very lucky for that. If I had another minute or moment like we all ask for, I would just tell her how much I love her and how grateful I am for her, for not only for this message, but for the life that she's given me, and that I will do my best to make use of it. I now think of it as, she brought me here to enjoy, just like when I was a kid, she would bring me to a playground or a park or the beach, and she brought me there to enjoy. And when it was time to go, she came and got me. So for now, I will enjoy until she comes to get me.
That's amazing. It's funny how life circles around and then circles around again. So, Elizabeth, this has been a beautiful journey. The journey from New Jersey to Madrid is one, but the realization and the I don't want to call it channeling because I think that does it disservice, but the connection with your inspiration and the ability to put that into some very tangible, actionable advice has been phenomenal. People who have obviously been inspired by this episode, how can they stay in touch, or how can they get a copy of the book?
Well, the book is on Amazon in 15 countries, so I'm very happy about that. So they can get on Amazon, and they can reach me on my website, which is chooseyourmoments.net. There's also a link there to purchase the book, and then to be in contact with me. I'm on Instagram and LinkedIn and Facebook as well. Instagram, it's Choose Your Moments Book.
I will put links to all of these in the show notes. So if you're listening, then click down below and stay in touch with Elizabeth. I'm sure the moments that we all go through each day can be a little bit more intentional, and we can make better choices that give us a more desirable outcome. So be aware of your choices and choose your moments. Elizabeth, thank you so much. And it was a pleasure speaking with you today.
Thank you so much.